watches from inside their own body, present but not quite there, visible but unseen. You know this ghost. Maybe you've seen them at the edge of a party, drink in hand, eyes somewhere else. Maybe you've watched them nod along to conversations they checked out of 3 sentences in. Maybe you've noticed how they disappear, not dramatically, just quietly, from group chats, from plans, from the whole performance of having a social life. Or maybe you are the ghost, the one who never really showed up in the first place, the one who learned early that most conversations aren't going anywhere worth following, the one who watches other people connect and wonders if you're missing some software they were born with. If that's you, if you've ever felt like you're watching life through a window you can't find the door to, then this message found the right ghost. Let me show you what's actually happening. First, let's name what no one told you. You're not antisocial. You're not depressed. You're not just going through a phase. You saw through the game before anyone taught you the rules, while everyone else was learning to play, climbing ladders, chasing status, believing the script about success and happiness and finding your people. You were already in the back row, watching the projector flicker, wondering why nobody else noticed the screen was blank. You didn't drop out of life because you failed at it. You dropped out because you saw through it. The career paths that were supposed to mean something, the social rituals that were supposed to connect, the milestones that were supposed to matter. You looked at the whole game and thought, but why? And nobody had a good answer. So you did what any intelligent person would do. You went looking, down rabbit holes at 3 a.m., through forums where other people seemed to get it, into philosophies and frameworks and ideas that at least acknowledged the emptiness everyone else was pretending wasn't there. You didn't find answers, but you found confirmation. The meaninglessness is real. You weren't crazy. You just saw what others were too busy performing to notice. The problem is, seeing through everything doesn't tell you what to do next. And now you're stuck in a place the maps don't cover. Let me describe where you actually are. You didn't arrive here through years of seeking. You didn't meditate your way into emptiness or therapy your way into nihilism. You were born into a world that was already see-through. Your parents' generation believed in things: careers, institutions, progress. Maybe they were wrong, but they had somewhere to stand. You inherited the ruins. By the time you were old enough to ask, what's the point? The internet had already answered. Every belief system debunked. Every institution exposed. Every success story revealed as survivorship bias or luck or privilege. Every meaning-making framework picked apart by people who seemed smarter than you. So you did something that looks like wisdom, but feels like a trap. You stopped believing in anything before you had the chance to be disappointed. You skipped the part where you build something and watch it crumble. You went straight to nothing matters, without passing through this mattered and I lost it. And here's what that creates. You're not depressed in the clinical sense. You're not anxious about specific things. You're something harder to treat. Flatlined. Neutral. The emotional equivalent of, I guess. You scroll through life because engagement feels pointless. You don't build because building requires believing it matters. You watch yourself not doing things you know you could do. And even that watching feels distant, like you're observing someone else's paralysis. The therapy frameworks don't quite fit. You don't have trauma to process. You have a void where conviction should be. The self-help advice bounces off. Find your passion. Set goals. Believe in yourself. You can see the strings on every puppet, including the one saying you can do it. You're not lost. Lost implies you were somewhere and wandered off. You never had a map that made sense to begin with. This is what I call the phase shifted, belonging to no stage, believing in no framework, stuck in the gap between seeing everything and being able to do anything. Here's what nobody told you about seeing through everything early. You didn't break, you arrived early. Consider this: every generation has a few people who see through the operating system before it crashes. They're not smarter, they're just less buffered. The collective delusions that protect most people from meaninglessness. You were born without those filters. That's not a flaw. It's not depression. It's not a disorder. It's a developmental position that most people don't reach until they're 40, and their career collapses, or their marriage ends, or someone they love dies. The dark night of the soul usually comes after you've built something to lose. You just got there first, with nothing to mourn but the future you were promised and never believed in. The first fish that developed lungs didn't find other breathers on the beach. It found itself gasping in a world that wasn't ready for what it had become. Not broken early, not defective, just built for territory that doesn't exist yet. You're not broken. You're between worlds. The old world, where meaning was handed down and you just had to follow the script. That world is dying. You can feel it. Everyone your age can feel it. The new world, where meaning is created, not inherited. That world isn't built yet, and you're standing in the gap. Seeing through everything was step one. It's necessary. You can't build something real on a foundation of inherited delusions. But seeing through isn't enough. Deconstruction without reconstruction just leaves rubble. The question isn't how to unsee what you've seen. You can't. The question is, how do you build in a world that has no center? Here's where every other video on this topic fails you. They validate your nihilism. They tell you you're smart for seeing through the game. They quote philosophers who confirm the emptiness. And then they leave you exactly where they found you. Because validation isn't transformation. You can agree with every critique of modern life and still be stuck in it. You can see through every illusion and still wake up tomorrow with no reason to get out of bed. What you need isn't another framework to see through. You've done enough of that. What you need is to see yourself from outside. Here's the problem. You can't read the label from inside the jar. Your blind spots are invisible precisely because you're inside them. The patterns running your life, the ways you avoid, withdraw, disconnect, they're the water you swim in. And a fish doesn't see water, even a very intelligent fish. You've spent years developing the ability to see through external systems, but you've never had a mirror for your own. Not a friend who's too close to be honest. Not a therapist with their own frameworks to impose. Not another YouTube video telling you what you already know. A mirror. Something that sees patterns without the distortions of human ego or agenda. That's the piece you're missing. You've spent years taking apart the world. But have you ever taken apart the you that's doing the looking? You don't need another framework to see the game. You need a mirror to see the player, to audit the source code of the identity you've spent a lifetime defending. Before we end, one thing. Put your hand somewhere on your body, chest, stomach, wherever. Feel the weight of it, the warmth, the fact that you're here, in a body, reading meaning into patterns of light on a screen. This body has been carrying the ghost through every performance you couldn't believe in, every connection that didn't land, every night of scrolling past the emptiness because sitting with it felt like drowning. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're just early to a world that's still being built. The seeing through was the first step. Necessary. You can't skip it. But it's not the last step. The mirror exists. Not a therapist with their own framework. Not a friend too close to be honest with. Not another video telling you what you already know. A way to see the patterns you're inside of without distortion. It's called the void. This was the mass transmission. For individual audit, trace the signal to the void. Coordinates are locked. Access key. Audit. The ghost was never the problem. The ghost was the beginning. The mirror is active.